Dear committee, welcome to the presentation of my master thesis. My name is Tanja Behrendt and the title of the thesis is Improving Fluency Through Digital Storytelling, a Pedagogic Proposal for Beginner Language Learners. I elaborated the thesis in the Master in Technology Mediated Language Teaching and Learning from the UOC, and I did so with the help of my thesis supervisor, Marina Sokolova. First of all, I would like to give you an overview of the structure of this presentation. I will start by addressing the motivation and interest of the topic of study, and then talking about the research questions. Afterwards, I will explain a pedagogic application that I designed and the piloting that I carried out. I will then give some recommendations based on the observations on the results of the piloting and draw some conclusions on the whole thesis. In the end, I'm going to provide you some relevant references that are related to the topic. First of all, coming to the motivation and interest. When deciding what topic I wanted to write about, I asked myself, what are the demands to language teaching nowadays? I've been working in a language academy for 4 years, and I've also seen several educational contexts when doing my internships of my bachelor degree, which was about primary school education. And after having seen all these different types of learners and contexts, I've concluded that there can be seen a certain disengagement from several learners towards foreign language learning. Sometimes the learners do not see the sense in learning another language, and they also perceive it as difficult, so they are not very motivated and they participate very little in all activities. Moreover, a lot of learners struggle to use language in a meaningful way and to transfer knowledge they have gained in a certain context to another one and use the language creatively. This mainly shows also in oral production. So a lot of students struggle to maintain a conversation or to speak for a long amount of time. Last but not least, I also considered technology. There are a lot of new devices and tools, and there are also new forms of communication. And since language is obviously present in communication and in all the technology that we use, we as teachers have to bear this in mind and also try to include technology in our teaching methods. Thus, I asked myself, what can I do in order to address these demands or these needs that I have detected? And then I remembered that at university, I was asked by 2 of my teachers to create a digital story. That was a very difficult task for me in the beginning because I did not know how to create a video and it was very challenging for me. However, I picked up a lot of skills that came in very handy for the bachelor degree and also for this master's degree. So I thought the digital storytelling might as well be a very good approach to focus on these demands. So let's have a look. What is a digital story? A digital story is a short narration, which can take about 2 to 10 minutes, and it is a video that combines different types of media. So there can be pictures, drawings, text, but also short video sequences that are enriched with the author's voice. So the author reads the story and includes the recordings in the video, but there can also be made use of music and other sound effects to convey emotion. The content of digital stories is not restricted, it's open, it can be about anything, but the digital story is always related with the author's personal experience or personal point of view. There's been done several research into digital storytelling, and what has been found is that it can increase motivation. So several researchers found that the students are more engaged in the classes when digital storytelling is used. Moreover, several researchers also found that digital skills can be fostered and that the students can improve their language skills. This can refer to either having a better knowledge of grammar and vocabulary, but also their skills regarding reading and writing and speaking, for example. Now, after having seen that digital storytelling is very beneficial for students, I asked myself what I can do for the students in my context to address their needs. So what specific part of language learning do I want to focus on? And then I came across fluency. And fluency can be defined as the ability to produce language without any undue pauses. So it means to have a smooth flow, let's say, of speaking. This flow, the speech that is produced, should also be up to certain standards. So the speaker should speak at an appropriate volume, speed, and also have a correct pronunciation. In language teaching, fluency can be included by focusing on enhancing the learner's general knowledge of structures and language chunks and vocabulary, so that it is easier for the learners to access this knowledge and then at the moment of speaking be able to put it or to produce words and sentences quickly and easily. Now, several authors mentioned that fluency was improved by digital storytelling, but they did not focus on it specifically. And this is where the innovation or where the special interest of this paper lies. The idea is to use digital storytelling and then see specifically how fluency can be enhanced or fostered by it. Moreover, the focus also lies on beginner learners. So fluency is usually associated with more advanced speakers of a language because they have already a very broad knowledge of vocabulary and structures. So it's easy for them to come up with the things they want to say. However, beginner learners can also be fluent as long as they are provided with the correct structures and the correct support in order to be able to develop their speech. Thus, the research questions that I decided upon are the following. First of all, I wanted to see whether the learner's motivation can be increased by using digital storytelling. Then, whether the learner's oral fluency can be fostered. And also, what problems or obstacles there can be found when implementing digital storytelling. We have to bear in mind that when we introduce a new pedagogical application, we also want other teachers, other practitioners to take advantage of it and to apply it in their context. However, for them to do so, we have to find out whether our ideas are feasible and whether there are any problems. And if there are any problems, we have to provide some ideas, some hints, recommendations on how they could be overcome. So let's talk about this pedagogic application. The idea is that the students participate in a digital storytelling project. This means that the students develop a digital story over the course of several classes. First of all, the topic of the digital story has to be chosen. In this case, the teacher decides upon it, and it should be a topic that is engaging for the students, but also one that they have at least some basic knowledge about, so that it is not too difficult for them. In my context, in the language school where I work, the classes are 90 minutes long, so I decided that I would only take half a class for the project, and then in the other half of the class something else could be done, but to focus for 45 minutes on the project. And with these 45 minutes classes or lessons, there are 4 stages, 4 lessons that can be created. This means in the first class, the students get introduced to the topic and to the general project, and then start gathering information on the content they want to include in their digital story. In the second class, the students prepare their stories, so they arrange their text, they write their narrative, they decide what pictures they could include, and they start practicing for the recording. In the third phase, the students put everything together in a digital storytelling program, which can be, for example, PowerPoint or Book Creator, which we see later. And this is where they put everything together, record their voice, and finish the product. And then in the fourth phase, the students publish their work, they show it to their peers, and they receive feedback so that in the future they can improve. Now, what can be highlighted about these stages is that they are aimed at increasing the students' motivation and fluency. Regarding the motivation, it can be said that the project is done in several steps. The students know that each activity that they do during the project will be useful for the final product, for their final story. So they know that each activity has a purpose, and that can motivate them to do all activities well, to have a good result at the end. Talking about the result, it is also very good for the students to see that they're able to create a whole story on their own, or at least with help, and that they can be creative with language. So in the end, when they've made their story, they can feel proud of it and they can have a feeling of achievement. Regarding fluency, it can be said that the students work for 4 whole classes on the same topic, which means that they will see again and again certain structures and vocabulary. That way they can learn them and they will be able to retrieve them more easily in the future. Moreover, in the second and third phase of the project, the students are asked to record their voice for the final edition of the book. So they will have to read the texts over and over again, which gives them an opportunity to increase their fluency and to practice a lot of oral output. Now we're going to have a look at the piloting that I carried out. First of all, I would like to introduce you to the context. As I've said before, I work in a language academy, and this is where I implemented this application. So I chose a group of beginner learners of German, and I chose them because the group is very small. There are only 5 learners, even though during the piloting only 4 attended, and they are teenagers. This means that they are very autonomous already in working. Some of their strengths are that they work very quickly and they understand instructions quickly and are able to apply them. Moreover, they have basic basic knowledge of technology and computers. So they are able to open programs, to search content on the internet, so that these basic things do not have to be explained to them. Some of their weaknesses are that the students do not know how to produce oral speech. So when they are asked to have a conversation, it is very difficult for them. Or also when they're asked to speak for a long amount of time about a certain topic, there is always a breakdown because the students feel self-conscious about the pronunciation, so they don't want to speak up, or they feel shy about speaking in the foreign language. And they also look a long time for words, or they are not sure about certain structures, so they stop speaking, ask their teacher, me, and then continue. So there's no fluent speech. Now, regarding the implementation, before I said that I would do it in 4 classes. However, due to the time, it was not possible. I did not have that much time available. So I put everything into 90 minutes. However, this is not a problem if we remember that in a pilot, we want to see if the project is in general feasible and if it can reach some of the results that were expected. So I decided to put all the stages into 1 class of 90 minutes. I chose as a topic cities and places that we like in them because it is a topic, or cities is a topic that the students had already seen, so they had some basic knowledge about it, and they usually like investigating or talking about foreign places. So I showed the students an example of a digital story, and we read these texts here together in which several teenagers talked about the cities they live in and the things that are special. And then the students were asked to create a digital story in which they chose 4 places, as you can see here in this mind map, 4 places which they described with adjectives, and then looked for people or things they could compare the places in the city to. So the student prepared this content, they looked for this online, and then I helped them to write the texts and to start reading them to practice the pronunciation. Then the students in Book Creator created the story, so they put their picture of the place, they wrote the name and did the recording. And once they had finished, they published it, so the other students had a look at their story and they gave feedback. Now we're going to have a look at the results. The first research question was about the motivation. The question was whether motivation was increased. And it can be said that the students participated very well. They did all the activities and they also enjoyed them because they were very happy. They said that they liked it and that they wanted to do the project again. However, regarding the focus on the task, it has to be pointed out that the students lost concentration along the way. So they were not able to maintain attention on the task the whole time. For example, when doing the online research, the students suddenly started looking up some other content or chatting among each other about a different topic. Regarding fluency, it can be said that in the recordings that the students did, there were little pauses, which was very good, and the pronunciation was mainly appropriate. However, in some cases, the speed was not as good. Some students were too quick, which made it difficult to understand them. And they also spoke in a very low voice or too loud, too near to the microphone, so that the sound was distorted. In another class, I asked the students some questions about the places they had written about, and at least they were able to answer the questions. They were able to talk for several sentences about places in town. which was an increase regarding other classes. So in that sense, they got more fluent, and this also lasted in another class. Regarding the use of technology, I had a look at the design, so were the students able to use Book Creator to their advantage and create an appealing story, and this was the case. The students chose neat pictures, they wrote the text, everything looked good. The students were also able to use the internet without any problems to look for the information, translate it, that was also fine. However, there was a general problem regarding the devices. So 2 of the students got very nervous because they were not able to use the touchpad of the laptop. So we used 2 laptops and the students did not have an external, there was no mouse. And apparently 2 students were not used to that. So they got very nervous when they did not know how to move certain elements or select certain functions. This brings me now to the recommendations. What should be kept in mind when using this sequence or this project? First of all, the timing should be kept in mind. So as I've said before, the application was meant to last 45 minutes for classes, and this seems more appropriate than putting everything into one class. In 90 minutes, the students lost their concentration. They could not focus on the task the whole time, so that it is better to make small sequences. Maybe they do not even last the whole class, but in the small sequences, the students can focus on the project and do it better. Moreover, it should be said that the project should last for a longer time. In one class, it is not very likely that the students can increase their fluency a lot. There were improvements from reading the text the first time and then doing the recording. However, it would be nice to see how this develops over a longer amount of time. And then regarding the use of technology, it is very important that the teacher observes the students and sees whether there are any problems, as in this case with the touchpad, and has either some alternative, for example, a mouse, which would solve the situation easily, or also has a look at the students in previous classes or ask them about the use of technology that they make in order to determine which tools or which devices would be most suitable for them. Now, coming towards the conclusions, I can see that I was able with the application to address my learners' needs. So I was able to include new literacies, to include a new tool, so technology in a very up-to-date application. And I was also able to provide the students with a meaningful context to use language in. The learners were more motivated than in other classes. They enjoyed it a lot, and they were also able to improve their fluency, which should be worked on then in the future to see if in a long application this is also the case. And regarding the use of technology, I can conclude that as long as the teacher pays attention to the students and has ideas on how to solve imminent problems, like not knowing how to use a device, there was no problem, since the rest of doing a research online and using the Book Creator tool was very easy for the students. I also conclude on a general level that it is very important to keep us up to date with new methods and be brave enough to implement them. I was very nervous before conducting this pilot because I had never used the laptops with my students in class. I had never let them use technology, and it was something new. And it turned out very well. The students liked it. The results were good. They learned language in a meaningful context. So that was a great opportunity for me and for them to learn. However, I could also see that it is very important that if we try something new, to pilot it, to try it out before making a long application, to see whether there are any problems and try to improve our ideas before making a long-term application. And this is it for now. Here you've got the list of the references that I have used throughout the presentation. And there's nothing left than saying thanks for your attention and for watching this video. I hope that you've liked it, and I'm looking forward to hearing your suggestions and your feedback and the defense. Until then, have a very nice time and goodbye.